Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
Hi, y'all. Merle here. Good news. For once, my neighbors is jealous of me. You want to know why? Because my grass is growing and looking green, and I can sit on my sofa out in the front yard, and I don't even have to overwater it anymore. You know how I did it? I listened to Damn Water Boys on the Water Zone every Thursday night on KCAA. Well, I got me a smart controller, and now it waters at night, and my yard looks darn tootin'. No more sneaking around and hooking up my hose to my neighbor's spigot in the middle of the night, and his dog won't bite me anymore. And you can do it too. Listening is easier than ever. KCAA is now screaming online.
It's streaming.
What?
It's streaming, you dummy.
Well, I don't know much about streaming, but they doing it apparently at kcaaradio.com. And they also on 3 radio frequencies now too. 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM. I guess that's for those 1%ers who have 3 radios. So anywho, listen to the Water Zone and fix your yard up right here at KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Live from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful sunny California. Thanks for tuning into the Water Zone Show. I'm your host, Rob Starr, along with Mr. Mike Barron, who's calling in here at the moment. And we're also known as the Water Boys, and Mike, I call him Mikeypedia. And today we have some in-studio guests, and we're also going to have a call-in guest. Usually the lady who does our water news, Miss Chris Austin from Maven's Notebook, is here. Hi, Chris. How you doing?
I am doing great. How are you doing?
And we have a special guest that you I won't use the word schlepped around, but you brought her in. She's a very nice lady. Got to meet her. Susan Longville. She's president and director of 3 of the San Bernardino Valley Water District.
Thank you very much. I'm also a member of Maven's Notebook's Water Advisory Committee.
Excellent.
And she's also chair of the Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority.
God, this is a great day. I'm between 2 smart, credentialed women, and I got Mike, who was inductee in the Green Industry Hall of Fame, and our guest who's coming on is also an inductee. So I guess I'm the poor guy here in the middle. Mike, are you there?
I certainly am.
How's out in the country?
Well, we just
For the woods.
enjoyed a couple of days of rain, which we always appreciate, up in the northeastern Sierra watershed. Still see some snow on the mountains, and 2 lakes I go to are full, and the creek is running at what appears to be full capacity. So, at least for this year, the water situation in California at the surface looks good. But as we know, underground where the aquifers are, we're still in a pretty severe drought.
Are you recycling it or collecting any of that rainwater?
You know, I keep my mouth open, and luckily it's just soaking into the ground. I don't see any runoff. It's just a slow rain that just soaks into the ground and replenishes that groundwater.
I can picture you in a hammock, laying back with a hat and your mouth open. The water's just pouring in.
That's right.
So how come, Mikey, every time I show up, you're out of here? I'm starting to take this personally.
No, please don't. In fact, I've been thinking about this, and I want to pull the trigger, and Rob doesn't even know about this, but what I want to offer publicly...
You're going to shoot me?
No, but I want to offer publicly is a $500 challenge that the Water Zone will match up to $500 in any donations that you can document to us, Chris. So that's our offer, and that's our thank you for doing the work that you do. And I know it's a modest amount, but hopefully you'll get some donations, and together that'll be $1,000 for your Maven's Notebook.
Oh, hey, I could sure use it.
So it's a great work that you do, and one that we certainly appreciate. and your participation in the show is also very much appreciated. So that's a little something that we can give back to your efforts.
Okay, sounds great.
Good deal.
I'll forgive you for not being here.
Okay, there you go. Next time, okay, I'm done with vacations for the rest of this year until Christmas. And maybe the day before Thanksgiving, then that's it.
Next time, no excuses.
Are you relaxing and enjoying it?
Well, it's funny because when the guy opens the store, at the campground, it's called RV Creekside or Creekside RV Park up in the North Fork, Bishop North Fork area. It's at an elevation of 8,300 feet. And, when he opens the door from the inside for business at 8 a.m., I'm at my computer sitting at on the porch, taking advantage of his small area Wi-Fi service. And so that's kind of how it's been in the morning. And then we go explore in the afternoon and visit with our neighbors and just enjoy some good old-fashioned relaxation.
Good. So are you ready for ready for the news of the week?
Absolutely.
All right, let's roll it. And now, do the radio voice. Maven's Notebook. Let me introduce Chris Austin again. Chris, what's happening in the water?
Hey, we have more lawsuits against the California Water Fix Project.
That's what we hear.
The environmental impact reports got finalized, so people have 30 days to file their lawsuits. So I think we're up to 3, but there's probably more I haven't seen, but 3 that I've seen. The latest one coming from Butte County. So they're alleging that the environmental impact report doesn't analyze the things that they think it needs to be analyzed, and that they think that the impacts of the project are going to fall on the water users in northern Sacramento Valley, but the Southern California gets all the water. So.
I also heard that the Enviro say proposed cannabis grow rules fails to protect wildlife. so now we got to cater to that?
Oh, this is big. We don't talk about it much in Southern California, but it's hot stuff up in Northern California. Growing cannabis, and boy, are they're working towards this. People in wine country, they're saying it's going to become cannabis country and not wine.
So the new careers are in marijuana and legal.
Yeah, and I just want to know, are there going to be like roadside bud stands, strawberries, buds? I'm just not seeing how this is going to work. But
it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, but the idea about making it legal is, these growers that are growing up in the mountains, they're growing on public lands, is very dangerous. I mean, not only are they putting a lot of really nasty chemicals out in the environment, but it's also a public safety concern because they protect their grows with booby traps and other things. So unsuspecting hikers could walk into a really dangerous situation.
Well, it's not only the people who will do it legally, it's also the people like in Arizona. There's a place right on the border where they said there's some national park that they're afraid to go into because they said so many illegal growers. And I don't mean illegal of growing this stuff. I mean they're from the cartels.
Right.
And
yeah.
they're growing this stuff. So yeah, you go in there and you get shot just because you're taking a hike.
So, I think it's a positive move that they're trying to legalize it and hopefully draw the people down from the mountains out and to do this legally. And a lot of growers are taking this seriously. There are people that are saying, it's good that they're paying attention to us and we want to do this and we want to do it right. And they're working with the State Water Board to develop these rules. So we'll see where this all goes.
Rob, I just thought of a new business opportunity. It's not growing cannabis, it's certifying that the cannabis is grown to environmental standards.
Oh, and so you're going to be the taste tester?
Well, in fact, that's in the state guidelines.
No, what we're going to do is there are certifying organizations for organic food, correct? So now what we want to do is create an organization that's going to certify the organic growing of cannabis, and of course those people that are consuming that product are environmentally sensitive because that's kind of the genre maybe, that you might use to describe the consumers. But I don't know. It's an idea for one of our listeners to take that up. But I think, just like wood from Sustainable Forest is certified, and create a whole new LEED program. Instead of the United States Building Council, this could be the United States Cannabis Council. And we can now certify the growing of environmentally correct cannabis.
Are you going to present that to the
thought.
Are you going to present that to the M Willow thing? Put it in there as because they're going to use water.
Well, they put fertilizers. They might use pesticides. So they're doing that in a way that's not regulated at this point in time. As Chris mentioned, making cannabis growing legal now envelops those agricultural growers into the regulatory framework of the state of California. So they're going to hopefully learn what that is all about.
Well, you remember in the drought, we really talked about crops that people were mad that were being used for water, like, almonds, and, oranges, alfalfa, growing rice in the desert. We can really look forward to some fun conversations in the next drought about where cannabis falls into the water use spectrum. So.
Well, Mike, all I can say is I'm glad that you and I have a full-time job.
Well, hey, I've got Chris, you, especially with your focus and knowledge of the water situation, I want to recommend a book to you. It's called The Water Knife. Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it. I haven't read it, but I've heard it's supposed to be good and kind of entertaining, my understanding.
Oh, I predict within 5 years it'll be a movie because it has all the right kind of conspiratorial intrigue and, of course, the romance and unexpected twist of the plot. But it has to do with water has become so scarce in the Southwest outside of California because of climate change. And dust storms and hurricanes have just created refugees throughout the United States, to the point where the U.S. passes a law that every state protects its own borders because they don't want people coming in across their borders to consume their water. So anyway, it's a very fascinating, futuristic kind of downer, but it's very intriguing because they have so much information about different water agencies and what they do and how they do it, and it really is entertaining. So I highly recommend it to you.
Okay, thanks.
Got to bring it to work so I can see it.
Yeah, it's a fast read, but it's a lot of fun.
Good. All right, so going back, so California Water Policy Conference. Salty built up the threat to California water. What's that about?
Oh, that was a great panel they had at the California Water Policy Conference, where they talked about the problem of salinity in agricultural drainage. And, that has been a problem here in the Santa Ana watershed, but that's one of the things that the Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority has taken control of and has done really a very good job. Almost, I would say, a model for the state in terms of getting that.
Well, the development of the brine line by SAPA was the first step, and of course another major role is played by the Santa Ana Regional Water Quality Control Board and some of the TMDLs, and we are but in our area, most of our watershed does not get Colorado River water. And in part, the reason why we don't is that the salinity from Colorado River, in addition to the nitrates that we have from, leftover agricultural drainage, we can't recharge it. I mean, we can't meet, those requirements. So it's a major issue, but it's well managed here. And the brine line has capacity so that, we can move it out, discharge it to the oceans. But as we do more and more recycling, some of our recycling plants have desalters, and where do we discharge that concentrated, discharge in the brine line? Without it, we wouldn't survive.
It's a big problem in the Central Valley. They're not very easily solved there, and it's a problem that has to be solved because it's slow moving, it's insidious, and eventually it will catch up if we don't do anything.
Right. We're trying to get Chris Paxson, you know him, to the desalter stuff, have him come in and talk to us about what they're doing inland. It was kind of interesting because a lot of people don't realize they do it inland versus by the ocean.
Well, the Chino Basin is
Right.
one of the areas that that was first to develop desalters, and part of that was that they had this was dairy country, and dairy what do cows do,
Cause global warming.
Yeah.
Well, you milk them, but they also put a lot of nitrates down in the soil.
You know about that new law they have with the cows, where they have to put something on the cow in the rear.
Cow farts. That's
Yeah.
what he's talking
Yeah,
about.
I'm trying to keep it clean.
We say that. Well, that's
We just call it methane.
Methane, yeah, lots of methane.
involuntary methane explosions.
Aside from what you were talking about, Chris, I've been reading more and more about this green algae cropping up all over it.
Oh,
We had people on from Scott's Miracle Grow who participate in a venture, a project to help get rid of it and all this stuff. But you wouldn't believe now, I'm reading more and more what's happening in California with this. It's now becoming a big problem.
Oh, and in all sorts of places. Even with the extra water that we've had this year, we've still had problems. Florida's had some really horrendous problems with it. And a lot of other places too. It's not just California, not just Florida.
No.
It's like all over.
When I first learned about it, I was reading, when we had these people on the show, I showed Mike some pictures of it had an alligator and they had some fish, and it was like in green sludge just all over it. It was just unbelievable. I mean, and unless you see that, unless people really put visuals to the words, it makes a big difference to that. That's why we are on video. So we can all wave to our friends and say like that. But so what else is going on?
Oh gosh, let me look at your notes. We're working on moving forward on the California water fix, moving forward on the tunnels. The water agencies are now starting to get to discuss it. They're getting ready to that decision point where the board of directors needs to make the decision. And, if you've ever attended like a metropolitan committee meeting, they always start out with, if there's anyone here to speak on any item not on the agenda. And usually there's crickets, but at these metropolitan meetings now, they've had the tunnel opponents, Restore the Delta, showing up. And they're showing up all over town, too. Showed up at Central Basin. We're going to see a lot more activity. They're
And
really
they only get a
working.
limited time to speak, too.
Oh, yeah, they do.
So how does the public forums work when you're limited a certain amount of speech? Just a question I'm asking, because,
it's really hard. When they were first doing back before the Cal Water Fix, it was the BDCP, and they did these public meetings. They let the speakers speak. They did not limit them. And you'd get a line up there, and people go for literally 45 minutes, 60 minutes. And someone mentioned to the people at the state, they said, why don't you limit these people? And they said, if we limit these people, they're going to hammer us. So we're just going to let them speak. And they spoke, and those meetings went on for hours.
Yeah.
Oh, hours and hours.
But, it's hard if you're the public and you want to be able to say what you want. Or say your belief where you have an opposing view. I kind of think they need to do it now. I agree with you. You can't let them go on and on and on and on and on forever, because no one's going to be there till 4 o'clock in the morning, listening to this thing. But there's got to be a reasonable way that the stakeholders can participate and have their say and have a reasonable debate about it. There's nothing wrong with people having an opposing opinion.
No.
We've had people on the show that had different opinions than maybe Mike or me, but that's our purpose. Wasn't to sit there and challenge them on those things. We want their opinions to go out and let them have their say in what's what, because maybe they do have some points. The biggest problem I see is people don't talk to each other. Mm-hmm. I see those meetings when I go to them, they yell at each other, and it gets out of hand. But there has to be a way to get these things going forward and giving enough time for everybody's opinions to be heard.
And it needs to be, I guess, to a certain point, reasonable. I think it's kind of like kids. If you yell at your kids for 45 minutes, they probably stop listening after 5. after 10. And I think when you're going on, in a way, limiting it makes you push your points up front and get your word out sooner. So there's a benefit to that, because I do think if you go on too long, it's human nature.
I've been to city council meetings where they allow you 3 minutes, and that may not be enough to get your perspective out. And some people have valid things, and there's some people that I would consider kind of crazy and off their rocker, but they're public, they're allowed to say what they say, and you got to be fair about it to everybody.
And the public servants that are there are elected by the public need to listen to them, no doubt. No doubt. I agree.
Anything else that's the hot this week?
I think we're just rolling along, just seeing where we're headed.
Singing a song. Side by side. So
Well,
tomorrow,
hey, Chris, I had heard. I was a little bit surprised that a group of farmers spoke up in opposition to the water fix, primarily because Goldman Sachs did a financial analysis, said it's possible that they would see their water costs over time.
Yeah, that was out at Westlands. Yeah, Westlands is a big agricultural district on the west side of the valley. When it comes to the affordability of California water fix, again, like I think I said last week, I totally agree, and I understand if you have no money, you don't want to pay anything more. But those costs are easily spread across the region with, 16 million people. It's the farmers where I think the affordability of the California water fix is really a question. There's much fewer of them, and they're going to buy, water by the acre foot. Metropolitan has been very clear on this in their meetings that they are not going to subsidize agriculture. Water follows the cost. We are only going to pay the costs on the project that gets the water delivered to Metropolitan. So the big question is, can agriculture afford it? And I think that the jury is still out on that. We're going to have to see.
Well, and some of the state water contractors that, bought into the project through 2035, the original project for their allocations, they're going to continue to pay their fair share of the costs to get those old allegations. But if they decide that they're not going to buy into the fix, then they're not going to pay any of the costs of the fix. They're not going to get any of the water either. And it's probably going to be bought up by the Metropolitans of the world. We'll be happy to buy more if they decide to opt out. So, I mean, there is a way to opt out. As one of the people, from the 28 state contractors, there's a very small number of us. We're talking about, 28 times 5. This is like less than 200 people in the state of California will make this decision, whether we're in or whether our agencies are out.
And ultimately, if you get 25% of the water you need at $125 per acre foot versus all the water you need at $375 per acre foot, that's the trade-off that has to be assessed. But then, of course, the growing costs, if they can be done for less outside of the U.S., then unfortunately, the economic forces drive kind of go against our own California agricultural community. But at least those perspectives are being surfaced and discussed. And
my board is president. My board is being briefed in a series of briefings, and our issues are slightly different than as the only agency. San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District is not part of Metropolitan. The Mojave Water Agency, which is the whole high desert, not a part of Metropolitan. Right. We have a little bit different message because our ratepayers pay for our water more in property taxes.
Well, I presume you and Kirby are pretty good about telling the folks what's happening.
We got to be transparent and tell the truth. But
right.
Yeah,
you guys do.
But we work real hard at it, and the decision is before us. We hope we all can make decisions sometime late in September or early October, and know who's in and know who's out.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you came across an article, and unfortunately I don't have it quickly accessible, but it had to do with how the CVP and SWP were justified, funded, and how, in fact, the ratepayers, the users of the water from those projects, have paid down those costs to a much, much greater extent than any public transportation project in New York or Boston. Those things are just sinkholes for public money. So someone's doing the comparison between infrastructure costs versus transportation system costs and saying, hey, in this state, in California, the ratepayers are ultimately paying back those huge investments that were made many years ago.
We're up against the break, so we're going to take a few minutes here to go to our commercials and be back. You're listening to The Water Zone on KCAA Radio, and stay tuned.
This is Brooke's yard, and Brooke loves spending time with her kids. What she doesn't love are the ugly bare spots in her lawn. That's why Brooke uses Scott's Easy Seed. Unlike seed alone, with proper care, Easy Seed's all-in-one growing solution grows grass anywhere. The first time, guaranteed. This is a Scott's yard. Pick up Scott's Easy Seed today.
Are you looking for a place to buy your landscape and gardening items? Come visit us at Site One Landscape Supply. We offer a large and quality selection of irrigation, landscape, and outdoor living products such as Toros water-efficient precision nozzles. Site One Landscape Supply has over 30 locations right here in Southern California, and we are the largest national wholesale distributor of landscape supplies in the United States. Site One's knowledgeable and friendly staff is equipped to help you with all your landscape, irrigation, and outdoor living projects. Whether you're redoing your backyard into a drought-tolerant garden or creating a water-efficient landscape for your client, Site One has everything you need, including the latest in water-saving technologies, drought-tolerant plants for your yard, irrigation supplies, fertilizer and weed control products, landscape accessories, hardscape products, outdoor lighting, and much, much more. Visit SiteOne.com to find a store near you or stop by today. Site One. We are stronger together.
Welcome back to the Water Zone. And anybody who wants to call in and talk to our distinguished guests, they are very distinguished and smart, you can call 909-792-5222 or 909-792-1050. And we have another guest that's called in. Hopefully he's on the line. And his name is Dave Fugino, and he's a PhD. He served for more than 8 years as the director of the California Center for Urban Horticulture at UC Davis, and he earned his bachelor's degree in plant science at UC Riverside, his master's and PhD from UC Davis in environmental horticulture and plant physiology. Dave's experience includes over 17 years in senior level management with large wholesale horticultural companies. His expertise includes organizational development, operational improvement, information technology, strategic planning, marketing, research and development, training, fundraising, and other areas. This isn't his resume for work. He's not looking for a job. Just want to clear that over there, but he's a good man. We worked with him on training lots of contractors in the state with Department of Water Resources. Dave's also served as past chair, vice chair, and grower member, director of the California Association of Nurseries and Garden Centers, vice president of the Nursery Growers Association, and most recently on the Department of Water Resources Independent Technical Panel. He currently serves on DWR's Landscape Stakeholder Committee, Bay Friendly Landscaping and Garden Coalition, Sac Tree Foundation, Davis Tree Commission, and California Institute of Food and Agricultural Research. So he's a busy guy, and we're lucky to get him. Dave, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much, Rob, and thank you all for the invitation to join you tonight.
We appreciate it. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, if you happen to be tuned in, that Dave was very much honored by the Green Industry Hall of Fame and was inducted recently, and I was at that event. And the year before that, Mr. Mike Barron was inducted in. So again, I have two wonderful, smart ladies sitting here on the right and left, and I have two smart guys on the phone with me. And I guess I got to go find something better for me to do. I'm only kidding. So Dave, can you tell us? Go ahead.
Well, Rob, I have to tell you, listening in earlier or listening to your conversations, I'm very much impressed at the breadth of the subject matter that you covered, anywhere from green algae to salinity, and then global climate change, water availability, and then also the tunnels, and then I guess to cap it off, you are actually hitting the cannabis crop.
Yeah.
So very very impressed, in terms of the subject matter.
Well, we try to give a plethora of different topics to the thing, and we kind of try. Mike's more serious than me. He's the serious guy. That's why I call him Mikeypedia. And we try to make it that it's interesting for the people that listen, but it's also kind of fun to do the show. And I don't know if you know this, David. We just got awarded a recognition from the United States Congress for our show for education and outreach. Got that the other day, so we're very proud of that. And then we just learned today that NBC News Radio submitted us, and we got accepted, I guess, from iHeartRadio. So now our stuff's going to be on iHeartRadio every week, and so we're very excited. I mean, the show's been doing well, thanks to Mike and everybody else, and Chris who participates, and Iggy Bisconer from our MIB, and Paul McFadden also from the Micro Irrigation Group. I mean, it's a whole team that makes this work, and again, we want to keep it intelligent. We want to keep it right to the facts, but we also want to make it fun for the people to call in. So how did you get started in what you're doing now? I mean, what drove you from a young child to where you are today? What made you choose this direction?
Well, it actually started back in high school. So when I was a junior in high school, I actually started in the retail nursery business. Some of you remembered the old Woolworths Garden Centers. That was a nursery chain up in Northern California. And so I began working in retail, and then from there, and in high school, and then from there, I did go forward with at the University of California at Riverside, and found a continued love for plants. And I was very fortunate enough to have a research position as an undergraduate at UC Riverside. And then from there, I continued on to UC Davis in environmental horticulture. I studied what was called post-harvest physiology of cut flowers. So I went into the cut flower industry and also the cut foliage industry. And then I worked for a couple of years in research, coordinating research here at UC Davis. And then I was encouraged by the two researchers that I worked for up here to go back, as they called it, and get my union card, which was the PhD. So I don't know if you know the joke. You folks know the joke about what BS stands for, but I probably, without saying it, you probably know what the acronym BS stands for. And so MS stands for more of the same. And then do you know what PhD stands for?
No.
That stands for piled higher and deeper. So that's what I went back to UC Davis for, and I was very fortunate, had a great experience here in plant physiology, and then finished up and then went on to private industry in the wholesale nursery business. I continued on for a little bit over 17 and a half years before I came back to UC Davis.
Wow. Well, I notice, UC Davis is just obviously world famous for all kinds of things, but what you have that's sort of related to you got the Ag Sustainability Institute, you got the California Crop Improvement Association, you got the California Institute of Food and Ag Research, Foundation of Plant Service. I can go on and on with all the things that's happening up there. They even have a partnership, I love this, with Robert Mondavi Winery. And that's the Institute for Wine and Food Science. You have an olive center. Seed biotechnology, you got UC CalFresh. I mean, you go up there and grow flowers and food and live happily ever after.
We're doing our best to do so, and then as you named those, thank you for naming a lot of those off, Rob. But what we're trying to do is, with some of the centers and institutes at UC Davis, is to basically serve as a hub or a bridge and connect researchers and faculty here on campus and extend them out and connect them with external stakeholders, the public, and private industry and agencies and what we call NGOs or nonprofits.
So what does the Center for Urban Horticulture do? What's their mission?
Our mission really, it's enhance, I guess, enhance urban living through horticulture. I guess that would be a little bit of a cliche, but quite honestly, our mission is to extend science-based information out from the university to the public and to industry and to other stakeholders for the state of California. So again, we serve as a liaison or a hub, and we try to bridge external stakeholders and connect them in, and then we try to connect our faculty here on campus to the outside external stakeholders.
Hey, Dave, this is Mike.
Hey, Mike.
You know that,
how you doing?
Great. Congratulations again on your induction into the Green Industry Hall of Fame.
Thank you, and likewise. It's an honor. It was quite a surprise, and it was an honor, and it's nice to be in company with people like yourself.
Well, thanks. But your work during the drought in training contractors and maintenance people, I thought it was throughout the state. A lot of hard work you guys you oversaw. I thought it was a very effective program. So that's congratulations on that. But I was wanting to ask you, this hub model that you were talking about for the Center for Urban Horticulture is one element of that, but this outreach to industry to expedite or perhaps to facilitate information from core research into industry, is that a model that is fairly unique or was founded by UC Davis, or is that something that other UC campuses try to do?
I think it's very unique to UC Davis. It was a vision of our previous Dean of the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences. So the California Center for Urban Horticulture, which is the center we're talking about that I oversee, actually reports in and up into the College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences, and that's one of the 4 colleges here at UC Davis. But it was really a vision of the dean of the college at that time. Basically, he was actually reacting off survey information that the college conducted. And what they found out, or what he found out and shared with me when I came on, is that the University of California here at Davis, and specifically the college, did an excellent an exemplary job at research and also instruction. But one of the opportunities of feedback they received for improvement was actually extending information outward into a useful source. So actually translating that research into practical and applied work out in the community. So that was his vision to do that, and then actually to build relationships. Both internal extending out and then external extending in. So, and he created a number of these centers and institutes within our college. And we, while we have, let's say, quite a few of these institutes and centers, there isn't one just set template or model or prescription for how we go about doing our work. We're all basically left up to rolling this out. So I've appreciated, coming back here and giving a lot of latitude and freedom to make connections out. And I certainly enjoy working with, companies, like yours, Toro, and others. So you folks have been great supporters. And then, it's not only that we have all the information internal, but we certainly appreciate and acknowledge and respect the information that you folks and other industry players provide back into the university.
Do you license any technology to industry from your research, or how does that work?
That can happen. When there's a partnership that's actually formed, there's not to get into the contractual details, but there's dialogue with those potential companies, and they talk about intellectual property rights and then licensing, and then so that is discussed pretty much right from the get-go, and decide who's going to get what, if it's just industry only, if it's going to be shared with the university and with a private company, or if the university basically just passes and then it's all the private company or the research, the company.
One of those research efforts that extended out into industry that came from UC Davis, I remember very clearly, was this experimentation of directing excess water during the winter onto fallowed agricultural fields to examine the refilling of aquifers or groundwater, and doing this in a massive way. And when I do read articles, UC Davis, in the climate change area, in the water resource area, in the horticultural area, seems to be more prevalent in different articles. And I think that ties directly to the mission and the vision that you mentioned earlier.
Right. Yeah. And we're, being from UC Davis, I guess, educated in terms of my graduate degree, and then coming back and working here, obviously, I'm very biased, and I'm very proud of the university, and it's, we're actually seeing quite a bit of transition, and turnover of faculty that are retiring now, and then quite honestly, new faculty coming in, and seeing the quality of the young researchers that are being interviewed and then actually being selected and hired in is very impressive. It is really a nice thing to see that UC Davis is, how would I say it, set up for the future. So I think, and working on, significant opportunities, whether it's climate change or water, just like you were mentioning, that will impact, the entire state of California.
Well, you have a couple projects going on right now. You have one that's called Watch My Garden Grow.
Yes. Well, it's actually not going yet, but it is a proposal that I'm actually have, how would I say it, cooked up based off of a Watch My Turfgrass Grow website in Colorado, I believe. And so I'm actually partnering, or have the opportunity to partner with the city of Sacramento up here and the Regional Water Authority, have interest of creating or duplicating something very similar to that in Northern California, and it's perhaps to put it on the internet. So it's a little bit funny thinking that you can log on the internet and watch your grass grow, Rob, but there actually is a website that you can do that. And so, is
that tied to the Robert Mondavi Wine Institute portion?
Well, I think you might have to enjoy that wine while you're watching grass grow, or either that, or create another website that's called Watching My Paint Dry.
Yeah.
But all kidding aside, is that what we hope to do with this is to gain interest with people like companies like yourself, your competitors, agencies, and to develop what I would call a robust partnership that we can actually use demonstration plots here at UC Davis with different irrigation technologies, best management practices, specifically in this case for Watch My Lawn Grow, and then we can begin to show and demonstrate people what you can do to have turf grass and actually save water, and whether it's cool season or warm season turf, because we know that turf is still going to be here in the state, and that not everyone is going to convert their turf grass to low water use plants, but certainly that opportunity, how would I say it, affords itself in the much bigger picture of this living laboratory that we're trying to create here at UC Davis.
Now, is that part of what you called your Living Urban Landscape Laboratory portion? Is that what
Yes,
that falls
that
falls
is part
under?
of that. So we're having conversations now in partnership with 3 other departments here on campus. So I'm partnering with the Department of Biological and Agricultural Engineering, Human Ecology, which actually houses our landscape architecture and environmental design degrees, and then the Department of Plant Sciences. So internally, I have these departments that I'm partnering with, and then I've been reaching out with companies such as yours. Most recently, meaning today, I heard back from Scott's Miracle-Gro that they're quote-unquote in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be having further conversations with them on having them included in this Living Urban Landscape Laboratory. So it's actually gaining a lot of momentum, I guess. And really, at the end of the day, what I really like to do is, number one, is whatever we do demonstrate out in the Living Laboratory, want to make sure we do measuring and monitoring in terms of calculating how much water a specific landscape should use, and then actually measuring and monitoring the amount of water that we do apply to show water savings. And then at the other opportunity that we have with this Living Laboratory here on campus, my vision and hope would be that we can create some sort of funding or endowment and get undergraduate students involved hands-on with aspects of the Living Laboratory.
So for the turf, there's different thoughts on that, whether you do overhead sprays or you do drip. How do you see that playing in your living garden project?
Well, we have some conversations with some of the irrigation manufacturers now. So there's already interest in demonstrating what you folks know as and are good at is called the subsurface drip irrigation system. So that was going to play out, in the Living Laboratory. We will be demonstrating that, whether it's actually with the Watch My Lawn Grow project, or if it's actually going to be in one of the other landscape areas that we have as opportunities. But we see that coming in, and it will be demonstrated with the turf. The other is that rotary screen nozzles, so these precision nozzles that like Toro produces. We'll be working with companies like yours to demonstrate those and show the importance of uniformity or distribution uniformity of the water that's actually applied. So we see drip, as being, a very, how would I say it, important, aspect or component of the technology part of the Living Laboratory. But we also are going to compare that and show that with what is typically found now, which is basically cool season turf with conventional spray nozzles. So we'll be doing an actual comparison with some of this other technology.
Now, will you implement like a full feedback loop, meaning using ET and like a smart controller, and then using and coupling that with a soil moisture sensor? Because to me,
yes, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because to me, the smart controllers with the ET tell you when you need to water, and the soil moisture sensors tell you how much to water. So kind of keep those all together.
Yeah. So and thank you for asking that question. And the short answer is yes and yes. We do have interest already, in the Watch My Lawn Grow project, where we have a desire to use weather-based smart controllers, using the ET or the evapotranspiration information, along with we have manufacturers specifically who want to test their wireless soil moisture sensors as part of the controlling their irrigation. So we're going to be demonstrating that, with the Living Laboratory.
Excellent. So, what other type of examples of partnerships do you have with outside organizations or companies or other universities?
Well, outside partnerships, we just finished up a multi-year project with the Department of Water Resources, and this was to to look at mature landscapes in 6 different climate zones of California, and to determine whether or not they can perform at the evapotranspiration factor of 0.7. So we just completed that. We had 31 different mature sites up and down the state, and so that was a very robust partnership that we had, that we just finished up. The other one that we are working on with regard to education and outreach, because we do a lot of that. We do something different, and not necessarily everything I do for the center is focused on water, but one of the fun ones that we're going to be doing this fall is we're going to be on pollination gardening and pollination research that's going on here at UC Davis. So we're partnering with the Department of Entomology and Nematology and some of the researchers there, and the UC Davis Public Gardens and Arboretum. So we'll be educating people on, those plants that are conducive to attracting pollinators in their garden. And this will all be in a benefit for what we call the Honeybee Haven Garden here at UC Davis. I was involved in the actual design and conception and rollout with that garden with the Department of Entomology back in 2009 and 2010. So this is going to serve as a fundraiser for getting some money to support the Honeybee Haven Garden.
Wow.
So those are a couple of examples, and then like I said, the one that I think that I'm going to have the greatest amount of fun and joy is this living laboratory, working with companies like yours. We have other manufacturers. You heard me say Scott. We have cities. We have agencies that are basically on board. The college, I met with college representatives here at the university, and they are providing a lot of support and encouragement for me to move forward on this. So I'm very excited about going forward with this, and I hope to be able to, to have you here in spring of 2018 when we open it up.
Yeah, I know we'd love to do that. Maybe you can, the program that we were involved with before, which I was part of with you, where we trained a whole bunch of contractors in different places all over. How could you tell our listening audience kind of what that was? What was the desired outcome from that, and is it going to be continued? Do we want to pick that up and do some more?
Right. So, yeah, and thank you for asking. That was a very robust partnership. It was in partnership with the Department of Water Resources. It was in partnership with irrigation manufacturers, as examples such as Toro, and it was involved also in partnership with UC Cooperative Extension and faculty here on campus. And basically, what we did was, it was in response, as we know, to the last 5 years of the drought, and so it was a request by the Department of Water Resources, an opportunity to extend and provide irrigation management to professionals. So we, in the past, let's say collectively, these robust partnerships with the industry and with agencies and with cities and with water providers up and down the state, as Mike mentioned, we had conducted in the past 4 years over 35 workshops, either a half-day or half-day and full-day workshops. Of those 35 plus, we had 6 of those that were bilingual or in Spanish in different areas of the California. And really, the outcome in terms of we probably have reached now almost 4,000 participants within those workshops. And we did and combined both indoor presentations and then outdoor demonstrations, to the registrants. So in terms of the audience, it was irrigation professionals, so they could have been agency people, they could have been landscape contractors, landscape designers, landscape architects, anyone who basically professional who touch irrigation or irrigation controllers we reached out to.
Excellent.
And the feedback. So now you asked me the question: what's happening now?
Oh, I got to stop you there, David. We do want to. We're running out of time against the national news that we have to do, but we're going to get back with you and set up another time to continue this because it was really good. And I'm sorry about that, but national news with NBC says we have to go. Anyway, thank you very much, Dave, for being on the show. I also want to thank Chris. Also want to thank Susan, and most of all, Mikeypedia. You guys have a great week, and remember the most important thing to do: think blue.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
NBC News Radio. I'm Tom Roberts. President Trump said